You know, sometimes a scientific paper comes along that just completely flips how you see things. Today, we're diving into one of those. It feels way more like biology than computer science, and honestly, it might just change how we think about, well, everything, from AI to reality itself.
So let's get right to the heart of it, with a question that sounds kind of out there. Imagine you have a whole bunch of AIs, right? They're all built differently, they learned in different ways, they're designed for totally different jobs. So why on earth would they all secretly start thinking the same way about the world? It sounds like it should be impossible, but what if it's not?
Okay, so let's really set up this puzzle. We've got this whole menagerie of AIs, all trying to make sense of the physical world, things like molecules and materials. And common sense just tells you their internal minds should be totally, completely alien to each other.
And this is exactly why it seems so nuts. Look at this. You've got graph models that see a molecule as, like, a web of connected dots. Then you have sequence models, and for them, that exact same molecule is just a string of text, something to be read. And then there are 3D models that see it as a bunch of points floating in space. I mean, we're talking different languages, different goals, different training data. Their internal worlds should be completely incompatible. But what if they're not?
Okay, so this is where it gets really cool. The researchers came up with this incredibly clever, almost simple experiment to pop the hood and look inside. They didn't just want to see what the AIs were doing, but how they were thinking.
And they really went for it. We're not talking about 2 or 3 models here. They took about 60 different AIs. I mean, a huge, diverse crowd of digital minds, and they put them all through the exact same ringer.
All right, and how they did it is just brilliant. Step 1, show every single model the exact same stuff. The same molecules, same materials. No funny business. Step 2, they pulled out what scientists call hidden representations. Just think of these as the AI's internal ideas. It's thoughts. Then, they actually compared the shape of those thoughts, geometrically. And here's the absolute key to the whole thing. They completely ignored the final answers. They weren't looking at the output, they were looking at the thinking process.
So, that leads us to the big one, right? The million-dollar question. After peeking inside all these different AI brains, do they actually think about matter in the same way?
The answer? Yes. And not just a maybe sort of yes. A strong, loud, statistically significant yes. It was a result that I think really shocked a lot of people.
And when they dug in, it just got crazier. This wasn't a fluke. The internal thoughts of all these completely different AIs, they were lining up almost perfectly. They were clustering together in this shared mental space. And get this is the real kicker. The better an AI was at its job, the more accurate it was, the stronger this alignment became. It's like the smarter they got, the more they agreed.
You know, a result like this, it doesn't feel like engineering. It doesn't feel like someone programmed this to happen. It feels more, I don't know, organic? Like it was selected for. It feels like evolution. And that idea, that analogy, is the key to unlocking this whole mystery.
Okay, just think about evolution in the real world for a sec. You have all these different species, right? But they all have to play by the same rules, the laws of physics. And that pressure, it kind of forces them to stumble upon the same great ideas. It's why we see things like wings or eyes evolving independently all over the place. Well, the argument here is that the exact same thing is happening in silicon. These AI models are all being constrained by one thing: physical reality. And that pressure is forcing them to discover the same internal map of how reality works.
Let's give it a name: convergent evolution in AI. And the most important part to get is that nobody is telling the AIs to do this. They're not cheating off each other's homework. They are being guided, almost sculpted, by the hard rules of reality itself. They're all finding the same answer because it's the right answer.
Okay, but we can actually take this biology analogy one step further, to a place that is frankly even more mind-bending. Let's talk about epigenetics.
So think about your own body. A cell in your liver and a neuron in your brain have the exact same DNA, the same genome. They're just different expressions of that genetic code. Now look at how this maps to the AIs. The genome in our analogy isn't DNA, it's physical reality itself. The atoms, the forces, all the rules. That's the source code. And each AI model, with its own unique design, that's the expression. So the graph model might be a liver cell and the 3D model a neuron. They're totally different organisms, but they're running on the same fundamental code. Different bodies, same genome. It's a powerful idea.
Okay, let's take a breath. What does all of this actually mean?
If all these different AIs are independently stumbling upon the same internal map of reality, well, that has some profound implications for what we even think intelligence is.
You've probably heard the big criticism of AI, right? That it's just a stochastic parrot, just mindlessly remixing the stuff it was trained on. But think about it. If that was all that was going on, then each AI's internal mind would be a weird funhouse mirror of its own unique training data. They'd all be completely different and incompatible.
But we're seeing the exact opposite. The better they get, the more they look alike on the inside. This is why the quote from the paper is so perfect. That's not parroting, that's discovery. These models aren't just memorizing, they're genuinely discovering something fundamental about how the world works. And this is where we get to the real philosophical bombshell, this idea of reality's coordinates. What it suggests is that the way reality is structured, it's not random. It's not totally subjective. There might actually be a correct, or at least a most efficient way to map it, a set of coordinates that any intelligence, given enough time, will eventually figure out. And if that's true, it changes everything about how we define intelligence. Maybe intelligence isn't something we invent. Maybe it's the process of discovery itself, the process of finding those right coordinates for reality. And that would mean that any advanced learning system, human, AI, maybe even something alien, is going to be pushed and shaped by the very same forces.
So at the end of the day, here's the big takeaway. This isn't really a story about AI models agreeing with each other. This is a story about reality asserting itself. It's about the fundamental structure of the universe pushing any mind that studies it towards the same truth.
So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. What if intelligence, all of it, from the first microbe to the most powerful AI we can imagine, isn't really about invention? What if it's just one long, slow process of rediscovering the source code that reality was written in from the very beginning?